At 27 minutes past 1, on the morning of the 4th of June 1942, the crew of the Italian submarine Luigi Torelli were charging batteries on the surface of the Bay of Biscay. The sea was calm. Visibility was poor. They had made this crossing before, as hundreds of submarines had. The bay at night belonged to them. Then a light appeared. Not a flare. Flares drift and fade. This was a beam, 50 million candelas of white carbon arc punching through the darkness from directly ahead. The light was so sudden, so incomprehensible, that the Torelli's crew did the only thing that made sense to them. They fired recognition flares. They assumed the aircraft was friendly. No aircraft in the world carried a searchlight. 4 depth charges hit the water 6 seconds later. Inside the control room, every gauge shattered simultaneously. The glass of the depth gauge blew inward. Rivets wept. A battery fire started below decks. The weapon that did this had been ready 13 months earlier. It was not late because of engineering problems. It was late because a committee preferred a different light, one that proved entirely useless against submarines. During those 13 months, U-boats sank millions of tons of Allied shipping in the Atlantic. The cost of that delay is not a number anyone can calculate precisely, but it is measured in merchant sailors. The man who built the weapon was not an engineer. He held no technical credentials. He was a personnel officer at Coastal Command headquarters, and nobody asked him to solve the problem. Nobody authorized him to try, and nobody paid for his prototypes. His name was Humphrey Leigh. The Air Ministry spent 2 years ensuring his invention would never reach the war. It reached the war anyway. To understand why the Leigh Light mattered, you need to understand a single number: 1 mile. That was the distance at which RAF Coastal Command's primary radar, the ASV Mark II, lost its target in sea clutter. Beyond 1 mile, the radar painted a surfaced submarine clearly against the ocean. Inside 1 mile, the return signal from the sea surface drowned the target echo completely. The submarine simply vanished from the operator's screen. In daylight, 1 mile was manageable. A pilot could see a submarine's wake, a conning tower's silhouette, the white feather of a periscope wash. At night, 1 mile was a wall of black water. The crew knew the submarine was somewhere ahead. They could not see it. Flares were the standard solution, and they were terrible. A Mark IV marine aircraft flare took several seconds to deploy and ignite, during which time the aircraft covered hundreds of yards. The flare drifted on its parachute, rarely illuminating the right patch of sea. Worse, it warned the submarine crew, who crash-dived immediately. A Type 7 U-boat with an alert watch could submerge in 30 to 40 seconds. By the time the flare lit the water, the conning tower was gone. The statistics from the Bay of Biscay between January and May 1942 tell the story in brutal shorthand. 0 U-boats sunk by Coastal Command aircraft. 6 aircraft lost. The exchange rate was not merely bad. It was inverted. Aircraft were dying, and submarines were transiting the bay on the surface at night with something close to impunity, making 17.5 knots toward their hunting grounds in the North Atlantic. Every one of those boats would spend the next 4 to 6 weeks sinking merchant ships. The Bay of Biscay was the bottleneck, the one stretch of water every U-boat operating from French ports had to cross, and Coastal Command could not close it after dark. The man who would solve this problem was, by every institutional measure, the wrong person for the job. Humphrey Leigh was born on the 26th of July, 1897, in Aldershot, the garrison town, though his family had nothing to do with the army. His father, John Leigh, was the vicar of Holy Trinity Church, serving that parish for 23 years. The De Verde in the family name points to Old Norman French roots, but no specific school or university has been identified in surviving records. That gap is itself informative. Leigh was not a product of the engineering establishment, not an Oxbridge man, not an apprentice at Rolls-Royce or Vickers, not a member of any professional institution that the Air Ministry would have recognized as a credential. He learned to fly at 18. In April 1915, he began training at the Graham White Flying School at Hendon Aerodrome on box kite biplanes, earning his Royal Aero Club Aviator's Certificate on the 13th of June as a flight sub-lieutenant in the Royal Naval Air Service. From Hendon he went to Calshot and Bembridge, flying short Type 184 seaplanes and FBA flying boats, then to Dunkirk for anti-submarine patrols over the English Channel. His weapon against submarines in 1915 was a rifle. The formative posting came in 1916 in Mesopotamia. Based at Basra and then Sheikh Saad on the Tigris, Leigh flew seaplanes, dropping food supplies to British forces besieged at Kut El Amara and Voisin 3 biplanes on reconnaissance. Ground fire forced him down near Gaza while serving with the East Indies and Egypt Seaplane Squadron. By 1918, he was senior flying officer aboard HMS Empress at Gibraltar, conducting anti-submarine patrols, the first time he confronted the problem of hunting submarines from the air. One connection forged in Mesopotamia would prove decisive. Squadron Commander Frederick Bohill commanded the RNAS seaplane operations at Kut. The two men served together in conditions that forged bonds beyond normal rank hierarchy. Over 20 years later, Air Chief Marshal Sir Frederick Bohill would command RAF Coastal Command, and he would remember the junior officer from the Tigris. Leigh resigned his commission in 1919. For 2 decades, he disappeared from military records entirely. He worked in Sudan's cotton industry. He sold bituminous roofing in London. A 1921 Freemason Lodge record lists his profession simply as engineer, though in what capacity is unclear. In 1935, he married Johanna Emily Whitefield Hayes at Chelsea. When war returned in September 1939, Leigh rejoined the RAF at the age of 42. He was assigned to personnel and staff duties at Coastal Command Headquarters, northward, not operations, not engineering, not technical development, personnel. The official RAF history offers a telling detail about what happened next. Leigh's relationship with Bohill, now Commander-in-Chief, was on closer terms than those normally obtaining between the air officer commanding-in-chief and a squadron leader on peace staff. In plain language, Leigh had direct access to the most powerful man in Coastal Command. He would need every bit of it. The idea was born in the summer of 1940, and its origin was not a laboratory or a design office. Leigh had been talking to returning air crews. Pilot after pilot described the same maddening experience. Pick up a radar contact at 5 or 6 miles, home in steadily, watch the blip grow stronger, then lose it completely at roughly 1 mile as sea clutter swallowed the return. At night, that was the end. The submarine escaped, every time. Leigh's proposed solution was, in concept, almost absurdly simple. Mount a powerful searchlight underneath the aircraft. When radar contact is lost at 1 mile, switch the light on. The submarine appears in a cone of white illumination. Attack. The elegance was in the simplicity. No new sensor technology. No complex fire control. No coordination with other aircraft. One light, pointed forward and slightly down, switched on at the right moment. The difficulty was entirely in the engineering. A searchlight powerful enough to illuminate a submarine at 1 mile, light enough for an aircraft to carry, stable enough to aim during a diving approach at 180 miles per hour, and robust enough to survive the vibration and weather of maritime patrol. Leigh did not submit a proposal through official channels. He did not write a staff paper, he built it. What followed was one of the most remarkable episodes of unauthorized innovation in British wartime history. Working without official sanction, without budget and without engineering credentials, Leigh assembled a small team and began constructing a prototype. He obtained a DWI Wellington, an aircraft previously used for magnetic minesweeping, from Bowhill at the end of October 1940. The aircraft had the essential feature, a Ford V8 engine driving a generator, installed for powering the magnetic minesweeping ring. This could power a searchlight. Leigh approached the Royal Navy's HMS Vernon, the torpedo and mine warfare establishment, and Savage and Parsons Limited of Watford, a searchlight manufacturer whose chief engineer, Jack Savage, grasped the concept immediately. Fraser-Nash, the aircraft turret makers, produced a modified version of their FN-9 ventral turret to carry a 24-inch naval pattern carbon arc searchlight. The installation fitted into the Wellington's existing ventral turret opening, critical because the geodetic construction of Barnes-Wallis's fuselage could not easily accommodate new structural cuts. By January 1941, the prototype was complete. By the 4th of May 1941, it was proven. On that date, Leigh himself piloted the Wellington during the first successful airborne test, illuminating the British submarine HMS H-31 at close range in darkness. The concept worked exactly as he had predicted. 5 months from conception to prototype, 4 months from prototype to successful test. A personnel officer, a searchlight manufacturer, and a turret company had solved the critical gap in Atlantic anti-submarine warfare in under a year. Then the bureaucracy intervened. Bowhill immediately wrote to Air Vice Marshal Philippe Joubert de la Ferté, then serving as Assistant Chief of Air Staff for radio at the Air Ministry, recommending that Leigh be formally tasked with bringing searchlight-equipped aircraft to operational status. Joubert refused. The reason was institutional, not technical. Joubert had been closely involved with the Turbinlite, a competing searchlight system developed by Wing Commander William Helmore in partnership with the aerial reconnaissance pioneer Sidney Cotton. The Turbinlite was a massive device, 2,700 million candelas, mounted in the nose of Douglas Havoc night fighters, designed originally for bomber interception. The concept was simple enough: illuminate an enemy bomber so that a following fighter could shoot it down. Joubert believed the Turbinlite could be adapted for anti-submarine work. On paper, the two systems addressed the same gap. In practice, they had almost nothing in common. The official RAF history is devastatingly precise on this point. In reality, the two lights had little in common, for Helmore's was extremely heavy and not very maneuverable, gave a strong diffused light instead of a beam, was fitted into the nose of the aircraft, and was used to illuminate the target so that another aircraft could attack. The Leigh Light was lighter, produced a focused beam, was mounted underneath the aircraft for depression angle, and was operated by the attacking aircraft itself. No second aircraft required. But these fundamental differences, the official history continues, were not fully appreciated at the Air Ministry. The Turbinlite had institutional momentum. It had contracts, test facilities, official backing, and crucially, it came from within the military establishment, championed by officers with rank and connections. The Leigh Light had a squadron leader from the personnel branch and a manufacturer working without a contract. In mid-June 1941, Joubert succeeded Bowhill as Commander-in-Chief of Coastal Command. Within days, he made two decisions. He recalled Leigh to full-time personnel duties, removing him from searchlight development entirely, and he ordered the Turbinlite to be fitted in two ASV Wellingtons instead of the Leigh Light. The official history records what happened next with quiet admiration. At this juncture, a lesser man than Leigh might have given up in despair, but the squadron leader merely proceeded with his personnel duties at official times and the development of his invention at others. Leigh worked evenings and weekends. He continued refining the system on his own time. More remarkably, he persuaded Savage and Parsons to continue manufacturing prototype components without any contract, entirely at their own financial risk. Jack Savage and his team at Watford kept building searchlight assemblies for an invention that the Air Ministry did not want, ordered by a man who had no authority to order anything, funded by nobody. If the Leigh Light had failed, Savage and Parsons would have absorbed the entire cost. That is not a footnote. It is an act of industrial faith that deserves to be remembered alongside the invention itself. The turning point came in August 1941, when a combined Coastal Command and Admiralty investigation concluded that the Turbinlite was quite unsuited for work against submarines. The device was too heavy. The diffused beam was too weak at range. It required a second aircraft to deliver the attack, which meant coordinating two crews in darkness over the open ocean, a tactical impossibility with 1941 communications technology. Joubert, to his credit, did something rare for a wartime commander. He reversed himself completely and immediately. The official history notes, Joubert, as befitted so acute and agile a commander, now changed his tack right about. He at once became Leigh's firmest supporter. From August 1941 onward, Joubert drove the program with genuine urgency, requesting 6 Wellingtons and 6 Catalinas, fitted with the Leigh Light on the 7th of August, and extending his demand by 30 more Wellingtons in November before the first 6 were even delivered. But the air staff, separate from Coastal Command, imposed their own delays. Further trials were demanded. When trials confirmed the light's effectiveness, 20 additional searchlight equipments were approved. But the air staff refused to have them fitted to aircraft until the first 6 had been proven in actual operations. This was a catch-22 of the purest kind. You cannot prove an operational weapon without fitting it to operational aircraft. Joubert pressed through the winter of 1941 into 1942. Aircraft trickled in at roughly 1 per month. By May 1942, nearly 2 full years after Leigh first conceived the idea, Coastal Command possessed 5 Leigh Light Wellingtons, 5 aircraft to cover the entire Bay of Biscay at night. Joubert, calculating that waiting for more would waste the advantage of surprise, ordered operations to begin immediately. The result was the attack on the Luigi Torelli and the beginning of the end for Germany's night domination of the Atlantic transit routes. The Leigh Light was not a complicated device. That was the point. It was a 24-inch naval pattern carbon arc searchlight with an automatic electrode feed that advanced the carbon rods at a controlled rate to maintain arc stability. No new science, no exotic materials. Every component existed before the war. What made it effective was not the technology. It was the application. 2 variants entered service. The turret type, fitted to Wellingtons, used the existing ventral turret opening left by removing the Fraser-Nash FN-9 gun turret. It sat in a retractable housing that the crews called the dustbin, a cylinder that dropped below the fuselage, exposing the light and retracted flush for normal flight. The reflector was 24 inches across. Without the spreading lens, it produced 50 million candelas, enough to read a newspaper at 2 miles. With the lens, which widened the beam to 10 degrees, in either plane, intensity dropped to roughly 20 million candelas. Some experienced operators preferred to fly without the lens entirely, accepting the narrower beam for a brighter punch on target. The nacelle type came later, designed for Liberators and Catalinas. Smaller reflector, 20 inches. but a more efficient design that actually produced 90 million candelas without the lens. It hung in a 32-inch pod mounted on standard bomb lugs under the wing, weighing 870 pounds against the turret type's 1100. Power was blunt and heavy. 7 12-volt, 40 amp-hour Type D lead-acid accumulators, wired in series, delivered 84 volts, nominal at 120 to 150 amperes, to the arc. Fully charged, the batteries gave approximately 6 minutes of continuous light. 6 minutes does not sound generous until you consider that the light was never on for more than 30 seconds at a time during an attack. A trickle charge system kept the batteries topped up, provided the arc was not run for more than 3 half-minute bursts per hour. The original DWI Wellington prototype had used the Ford V8 engine and generator for power, but production aircraft switched to batteries recharged from the aircraft's own electrical systems. Simpler, lighter, and one fewer engine to maintain. On the Wellington, fitting the Leigh Light meant sacrificing the nose turret. The space was needed for the light's control mechanisms. In place of the powered turret, 2 manually operated .303-inch Browning machine guns were mounted in the forward canopy. This was not a good trade in firepower, but Coastal Command accepted it. The aircraft's job was to kill submarines, not to dogfight. An attempt was made to fit the Leigh Light to the Fairey Swordfish, the ancient biplane torpedo bomber that refused to retire. The light went under the port wing. The batteries hung where the torpedo normally sat. The result was, by any honest assessment, a disaster. The aircraft's top speed with the installation fell to a figure marginally above its stall speed. The Swordfish could carry the light. It could not meaningfully fly with it. A more ambitious attempt on the Handley Page Halifax in 1944 failed for a different reason. The edge of the bomb bay physically blocked the beam at useful depression angles. The geometry simply did not work. The Wellington remained the workhorse. By the end of 1944, Coastal Command operated 119 Leigh Light Wellingtons. The GR-8 built specifically for the role, the GR-12 with ASV Mark II radar, and the GR-14 with chin-mounted centimetric ASV Mark III and rocket rails. The GR-14 was the definitive variant. 841 were built in total, making it the most produced Wellington Mark of the war. The tactical procedure for a Leigh Light attack was a precisely choreographed sequence that left no margin for hesitation. Patrol altitude was 1,500 to 2,500 feet. The ASV operator scanned continuously, watching for the bright blip of a surfaced submarine against the darker sea return. Contact typically appeared at 5 to 9 miles. The pilot began a gradual descent. At 3 miles, the aircraft had to be at or below 1,500 feet, descending toward 500. If the pilot was too high, and this happened frequently because radar ranges were imprecise and the altimeter was unreliable over water at night, the standard procedure was a 360 orbit to lose altitude without closing range. This was nerve-wracking. An orbit took time, and time meant the submarine might detect the aircraft's radar emissions and dive. Every second of the approach was a race between the aircraft's closing speed and the U-boat crew's alertness. The ASV operator called range every quarter mile. Approach into the moon if possible. Upwind was preferred. It reduced ground speed and gave the pilot an extra second or two over the target. At approximately 3/4 of a mile, 1,200 meters, the light operator verified the searchlight was aimed straight ahead and depressed to 6 degrees, then switched on. 1,200 meters of darkness became 1,200 meters of blinding white light. The submarine appeared. Hull, conning tower, wake, sometimes the startled faces of the bridge watch. The pilot pushed the nose down to 50 to 100 feet and held 180 miles per hour. Depth charges released, typically a stick of 4 to 8 250-pound Torpex Mark 11 charges set for shallow detonation. Flame floats dropped simultaneously to mark the position for follow-up aircraft. From light on to passing over the target, roughly 10 seconds. 10 seconds for the crew to visually acquire, confirm it was a submarine and not a fishing vessel or a whale, aim the aircraft and release weapons. 10 seconds for the U-boat crew to react. And in the early months, they had no idea what was happening. No submarine crew in 1942 had trained for an aircraft attack at night. Their lookout doctrine, their crash dive drills, their entire defensive posture assumed that darkness was protection. It was not anymore. Joubert had 5 aircraft, 5 Leigh Light Wellingtons to cover 150,000 square miles of ocean at night. He calculated the odds and made a decision that most commanders would not. Rather than wait for a full squadron, he ordered immediate operations. Surprise was a weapon that could only be spent once. If even a single submarine crew reported a searchlight-equipped aircraft and survived to tell Dönitz, tactics would change before Coastal Command had the numbers to exploit them. No 172 Squadron had formed on the 4th of April 1942 at RAF Chivanor in Devon, built from the nucleus of No. 1417 Leigh Light flight. On the night of the 3rd and 4th of June, 4 Wellingtons flew out over the bay at 27 minutes past 1. The moment this story opened with the Wellington designated F for Freddy, piloted by Squadron Leader Jefferson Herbert Greswell with Pilot Officer Alan Triggs, an Australian as second pilot, detected a radar contact at 6.5 miles to starboard. They homed in. At approximately 1 mile, the Leigh Light blazed on. The Italian submarine Luigi Torelli, a Marconi-class boat commanded by Tenente di Vascello Augusto Migliorini, was outbound from La Pallis to the West Indies. Her crew had no warning and no frame of reference for what they were seeing. They fired recognition flares, convinced the aircraft was friendly. No hostile aircraft had ever approached them with a searchlight. Greswell made multiple passes, descended to 50 feet, and dropped 4 250-pound Mark 8 depth charges that straddled the hull. 3 detonated. Italian crewman Secondo Capo Meccanista Carlo Pracci described the moment. Every gauge in the control room shattering, valves shutting down, drips forming on the heads of the rivets in the frames. Power failed. The compass died. Steering was damaged. A battery fire broke out below decks. The Torelli survived, barely, and was attacked twice more by Sunderland flying boats over the following days as she crawled toward neutral Spain. She reached Avilés, then Santander by the 8th of June, and finally Bordeaux on the 15th of July after emergency repairs. She was out of the war for weeks. The Leigh Light had not sunk her, but it had nearly destroyed her and forced her into a crippled retreat that removed her from the Atlantic campaign entirely. The first confirmed kill came a month later. At 4:45 on the morning of the 6th of July, Wellington H for Harry of 172 Squadron, piloted by Pilot Officer Wiley B. Howell, an American volunteer serving in the RAF before the United States had entered the war, detected an attacked U-502, a Type 9 C boat commanded by Captain Lieutenant Jürgen von Rosenstiel in the bay west of La Rochelle. The depth charges struck true. U-502 was sunk with all 52 crew. She had sunk 14 Allied vessels, totaling 78,843 gross register tons in 4 patrols. Howell received the Distinguished Flying Cross and later transferred to the United States Navy, eventually commanding the aircraft carrier USS Bennington in 1965. The Leigh Light's strategic impact was disproportionate to the number of submarines it actually destroyed. Units overreacted, and the overreaction mattered more than the kills. After losing only one U-boat to the new weapon, in July 1942, he ordered all boats transiting the bay to remain submerged at night and surface only in daylight for battery charging. This was a complete inversion of decades of submarine doctrine. Surfacing by day exposed boats to visual detection throughout daylight hours and slowed transit times dramatically. A U-boat that could cross the bay in 2 nights on the surface now took 4 or 5 days, half of it visible to any aircraft passing overhead. The night had belonged to Germany's submarines. It no longer did. Germany struck back quickly. In August and September 1942, the METOX, or 600 radar warning receiver, reached the U-boat fleet, a device manufactured by a French firm in occupied Paris and offered to Donitz by French Admiral Darlan. Tuned to detect the 1.5-meter wavelength of ASV Mark II at ranges of 10 to 50 kilometers, far beyond the radar's own detection range, METOX gave U-boat crews ample time to crash dive. Its antenna was the infamous Biscay cross, 5 pieces of wood lashed together in a cross shape with wire wrapped around them, mounted on the conning tower and rotated by hand. It could not survive a dive. Every time the alarm sounded, a crewman had to scramble up the ladder, disassemble the cross, and carry it below before the hatch could be sealed. Crude, awkward, and remarkably effective. From November 1942 to January 1943, not a single sinking was recorded in bay patrols. Coastal Command admitted that its anti-submarine operations in the bay had, for a time, been defeated. The counter to METOX was already under development, and viewers of our earlier video on Randall and Boot will recognize the technology. The ASV Mark III was a centimetric radar using a 10-centimeter wavelength cavity magnetron derived from the H-2S bomber navigation set. METOX was blind to it. The receiver could not detect what it was not designed to hear, and 10 centimeters was an entirely different part of the spectrum from 1.5 meters. Number 172 Squadron, the same unit that had flown the first Leigh Light attack, was first to operate the new radar, flying its initial centimetric patrol on the night of the 1st and 2nd of March, 1943. On the 5th of March, a 172 Squadron Wellington attacked U-333. The aircraft was shot down, but the submarine commander noted something that alarmed him far more than the attack itself. His METOX had given no warning whatsoever. He reported this to U-boat command. The implications were clear to anyone willing to read them. The combination of ASV Mark III and the Leigh Light restored complete surprise. The radar found the submarine. The searchlight illuminated it. The METOX sat silent. In May 1943, bay patrols achieved 103 sightings and 68 attacks, sinking 6 U-boats and damaging 7 more. The Bay of Biscay was becoming what German submariners would call the Valley of Death. The offensive escalated through a series of named operations: gondola, enclose, derange, musketry, commanded by Air Marshal Sir John Slessor, who had replaced Joubert as Commander-in-Chief of Coastal Command in February 1943, and Air Vice Marshal Brumet at No. 19 Group in Plymouth. Slessor described the strategy as attacking the trunk of the Atlantic U-boat menace, hitting submarines in the one choke point they could not avoid. In July 1943, the offensive reached its peak. Allied aircraft claimed 16 U-boats in the bay in a single month. The most dramatic single action came on the 30th of July, when a combined force including 461 Squadron, of the Royal Australian Air Force, 502 Squadron, and 53 Squadron destroyed 3 submarines in a single engagement, U-461 and U-462, both Type 14 tanker boats, the so-called milch cows that refueled operational U-boats at sea and extended their patrol radius by weeks, and U-504. The destruction of tanker submarines was particularly devastating. Without them, the operational U-boat fleet's range shrank overnight. Dönitz tried everything. Standing War Order 483, issued in May 1943, instructed U-boats to stay on the surface and fight it out with anti-aircraft guns rather than dive. 4 Type 7C boats were converted into dedicated flak-trap submarines, U-441, U-256, U-621, U-953, bristling with heavy anti-aircraft armament, their job to lure in an aircraft and shoot it down. Groups of 5 or more boats were ordered to transit together for combined firepower. Between the 1st of May and mid-August 1943, U-boats shot down 32 aircraft over the bay, but they lost 26 submarines sunk and 17 heavily damaged in return. The exchange rate was catastrophic. On the 2nd of August, Dönitz abandoned group transit tactics. The flak trap experiment was cancelled in November. The German attempt to detect centimetric radar produced the Naxos FUM-B7 receiver from October 1943, but it was fragile, oversensitive to its own boat's emissions, and had a detection range of only about 8 kilometers. Not enough warning for a crash dive at night. In a grim detail that captures the desperation of the technology race, the commander of U-625 drowned trying to remove the Naxos antenna during an emergency dive. The equipment that was supposed to save him killed him. On the 17th of May 1943, Dönitz transmitted message 1769 to his fleet. The situation in the North Atlantic now forces a temporary shift of operations to areas less endangered by aircraft. Temporary was optimistic. Between the 1st of May and the 15th of September 1943, not a single Allied merchant ship was sunk on North Atlantic convoy routes. The U-boat arm lost 43 submarines in May alone, a quarter of its operational strength. The Battle of the Atlantic was not won by a single weapon or a single decision, but the Leigh Light was the device that closed the night, and closing the night changed everything that followed. The squadrons that carried the light deserve to be named. Number 172, Squadron, the first and foremost Leigh Light unit, was credited with 7 confirmed U-boat kills before its disbandment on the 4th of June 1945. Number 179 Squadron, formed in September 1942 from a 172 Squadron detachment at RAF Skitton in Scotland, later operating from Gibraltar, achieved 11 kills, one of Coastal Command's most successful squadrons of the war. Number 407 Squadron of the Royal Canadian Air Force, the Demon Squadron, converted to Leigh Light Wellingtons in January 1943 and sank at least 4 U-boats. Numbers 53 and 224 squadrons operated Leigh Light Liberators for longer-range night operations, reaching further into the Atlantic than the Wellington could manage. Humphrey de Verdely received 3 decorations for his war service. The Officer of the Order of the British Empire, gazetted on the 1st of January 1943. The Air Force Cross, gazetted on the 8th of June 1944. And the Distinguished Flying Cross, for which no specific gazette date has been identified in available records. His final rank was Wing Commander. That is the complete list of official recognition for a weapon that contributed to approximately 42 submarine sinkings, forced a fundamental reversal of U-boat doctrine, and helped transform the Bay of Biscay from a safe transit corridor into what German submariners called the Valley of Death, a stretch of ocean where 69 U-boats were destroyed. Consider the comparisons. Barnes-Wallis received a CBE for the bouncing bomb, then a knighthood. We covered his story in a previous video. The Dam Busters raid was spectacular, killed approximately 1,300 people, and caused flooding that disrupted German industry for weeks. Robert Watson Watt received a CB and a knighthood for radar, a technology that, as we discussed in his story, was genuinely war-winning. Frank Whittle received a CB and £100,000 for the jet engine. Leigh received an OBE. An OBE is what you give a competent civil servant for 20 years of dependable administration. It is not what you give a man whose invention closed the night over the Atlantic. No evidence exists of anyone else claiming credit. The device was universally and immediately named the Leigh Light. Everybody knew who built it. Nobody thought he deserved more than an OBE. Part of the explanation lies in the service Leigh belonged to. Coastal Command was the Cinderella service. The phrase was coined by A.V. Alexander, First Lord of the Admiralty, in November 1940, and it stuck because it was accurate. Fighter Command had the Battle of Britain. Bomber Command had the Strategic Campaign, the 1,000 bomber raids, the Dam Busters, the public imagination. Coastal Command had statistics, sighting rates per 100 flying hours, exchange ratios, tonnage curves. These numbers won the war at sea, but they did not make front pages or inspire films. Air Marshal Arthur Harris regarded Coastal Command as, his phrase, merely an obstacle to victory. The irony is savage and worth stating precisely. Between January and May 1943, Bomber Command flew 7,000 sorties against U-boat pens at Lorient, Brest, and Saint-Nazaire. They lost 266 aircraft and their crews, over 1,800 men. The damage to the pens was nil. The reinforced concrete roofs absorbed everything Bomber Command could deliver. Coastal Command's entire long-range fleet never reached 266 aircraft at any point during the war. Harris spent more aircraft attacking empty concrete in 5 months than Coastal Command possessed in total. Leigh resigned his commission on the 20th of July, 1954. The London Gazette recorded it without comment. He spent his later years at Richmond Hill in London. No record of post-war employment or public activity has been found. He died on the 6th of June, 1980, the 36th anniversary of D-Day, though no one seems to have noted the coincidence, at the age of 82. His estate was valued at £19,221. His son Christopher became a barrister, took silk as Queen's Counsel in 1989, and served as a circuit judge. The father built a weapon that helped win the Atlantic. The son built a career in law. Neither sought attention. The Leigh Light's tactical legacy is a principle that every modern military takes for granted: sensor fusion. Radar alone was not enough. It could find the target, but could not hold it through the final approach. The searchlight alone was useless. You cannot illuminate what you have not detected. The combination of the two created a complete kill chain: detect, track, illuminate, attack. That sequence, different sensors covering each other's blind spots, is the foundation of every anti-submarine warfare system in service today. The principle seems obvious. In 1940, one man saw it and the Air Ministry did not. Strategically, the Leigh Light drove consequences its inventor could not have foreseen. By making night surface operations lethal, it forced U-boats to spend more time submerged. This pressure directly accelerated deployment of the schnorkel, the breathing tube that allowed diesel engines to run at periscope depth, which first appeared on U-boats in early 1944. The schnorkel pointed toward a submarine that never needed to surface at all. The line from a carbon arc searchlight under a Wellington to a nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine is not direct, but it is real. The Bay of Biscay offensive pioneered the doctrine of hunting submarines in transit choke points rather than waiting for them to attack convoys. Slessor's phrase, attacking the trunk rather than the branches, became orthodoxy. During the Cold War, NATO applied exactly the same logic at the GI-UK gap against Soviet submarines. The geography changed. The principle did not. The METOX, the ASV Mark III, the Naxos, this escalating cycle of detection and counter-detection established electronic warfare as a permanent feature of naval operations. Every modern submarine carries radar warning receivers. Every maritime patrol aircraft carries sensors designed to defeat them. The arms race that began with 5 pieces of wood lashed into a cross on a U-boat's conning tower has never ended. Physical traces survive if you know where to look. The RAF Museum at Hendon has a Leigh Light on display. At Putsborough in Devon, overlooking Mort Bay, near what was RAF Chivanor, a concrete observation post and an indicator arrow built for Leigh Light training still stand in the grass above the beach. WAAF personnel manned observation sites along the coast, triangulating bombing accuracy for the crews who would fly out over the bay that night. The Imperial War Museums hold 2 oral history recordings, one made on the 2nd of March 1973, 60 minutes of Leigh describing his First World War career, and a BBC-produced recording covering the searchlight. These are among the few surviving records of his voice. 19,221 pounds. That was the value of his estate. The weapon he invented helped sink 42 submarines, closed the Bay of Biscay at night, and contributed to a victory that kept Britain fed and fighting. His name is not on a memorial, it is on a searchlight